Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another video for Eve Echoes. In today's video I'm going to be talking about industry, in specific mining, and in even more specific, the Venture series of hulls. Ultimately, it is my opinion and the opinion of many of the industrialists I speak to that the Venture line of hulls become absolutely redundant the second a player hits Tech 7. Now, beyond the fact that this is just another casualty of the tech level system, and I have done an entire video about why the tech level system sucks and why it's probably the most damaging thing in the game currently, and how I would remove and improve that, but ultimately today's video is going to be focusing a little bit more on how we can fix things using the tech level system. Whilst, if we're stuck with this system, let's figure out ways that we can fix things with it still in place. And that's the concept we're going for here. I'm going to be bouncing a few ideas off you folks, and I would love to have some thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Now again, these are not just my thoughts and concepts, these are concepts that have been developed in combination with several other prominent industrialists out there. I've bounced these ideas off them, they've come back with changes and vice versa. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. And you'll have noticed as well that yes, the screen resolution is a little bit different today because we are going to be having a look at EVE Online as well for some inspiration and some comparisons. Now again, I do believe that EVE Echoes and EVE Online should be different games, but when we have a problem in EVE Echoes, I think that EVE Online is a brilliant source of inspiration for ways to deal with that problem. Anyway, let's not spoil everything before we get into it, so if you enjoyed the video, please hit like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, ding that notification bell to never miss a video, and of course let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Finally, if you do want to go the extra mile to help keeping me do what I do, we have a Redbubble merchandise store and a Patreon page that you can pledge to support as well. Get your name in the stars at the end of the video and earn some really cool exclusive merchandise. Anyway, with all that said and done then, let's talk about fixing mining, in specific, the Venture series. Before I can discuss fixes with you, I think of course it's important to establish what I believe the problem actually is to start with. And again, this is not just my opinion. I've been talking to a lot of industrialists, a lot of miners, and recently I re-rolled a brand new character to start purely as an industrialist, starting out with mining and shipbuilding and just growing from there to see how well I can do. And let me tell you, it's grim. If you think it's bad, it is probably worse than you actually think it is. It is awful starting out as a miner when you're about Tech 4, Tech 5. You really need to hit Tech 7 before anything becomes apparent, and we'll talk about this as we go, but let's just have a look at some figures, shall we? So here we have a Venture 3. The hull itself of the Venture 3 is valued at about 7.9 million ISK on the market as of current day with me going in and recording this. Now I've fitted 3 of the Ion miners. These are the top tier miner that you can fit, that you can get on the live server currently. And I've also put on 3 mining circulation 3 rigs, which I'm told is the best thing to have in regards to min-maxing mining unless you're using nanocores. We're not. This is the fit that I'm going to be using across the board, by the way, the best mining laser possible to get on the live server with full mining circulation 3 rigs. So here we have the Venture 3, 7.9 million ISKs worth of ship, 3 of these mining lasers at 196 cubic meters of mining amount every 31.05 seconds of activation time. When you math that out, that's 18.94 cubic meters per second. If we compare this to the Venture 4, so this is going from a Tech 6 ship up to a Tech 10 ship. This is now a 240.3 million ISK ship. Much more expensive already, like literally you're looking at, I think, 30 times the price there, if not 40 times the price. My maths is terrible. We're looking at 8 million compared to 240 million, so yeah, it's 30 times the price. Now here we have 3 of the miners again, 270 cubic meters these harvest this time, and a slightly faster activation time of 25.73 seconds. Math that out, and that's 31.48 meters cubed per second. That's literally almost double the Venture 3, but that makes sense. We're going from a Tech 6 ship up to a Tech 10 ship, and yes, okay, the Tech 10 ship is literally 30 times the cost for, not quite double the output, but it is still an investment that you can make, and it is going to help you mine faster. It kind of makes sense, right? Now let me introduce you to the mining barges. The first of these is the Retriever, available at Tech Level 7, literally 1 tech level after the Venture 3. Now here we have strip miners. Now even though you can only get the Mark 9 strip miner versions here, these, let's look at this, 1,800 cubic meters of harvest over an activation time of 77.19 seconds. Now yes, that is a lot longer on its activation time, but when we do the math there, 2 of these Mark 9 strip miners with 1,800 cubic meters harvest, 77.19 seconds is 46.64 cubic meters. That means going from the Venture 3 to the Retriever, you're going from 18.94 cubic meters to 46.64. You are literally more than doubling your output there. That is an insane increase, going from tech level 6 to tech level 7. It is a massive increase, and it's the biggest jump of any of these ships. I could show you the Venture 1, the Venture 2, and the Venture 3 for comparison, but ultimately that felt like the video was getting long in the tooth. The simple point is you go from 18.94 cubic meters per second to 46.64 cubic meters per second as you hit Tech 7. And if you think that jump sounds big already, let me introduce you to the Covetor 2. This is the Tech 10 of the mining barges, 3 of the strip miners here, 3 Mark 9 strip miners, each with 2,100 cubic meters of mining amount, circulating at 77.19 seconds, gives us a total of 81.62 cubic meters of ore per second. Now, yes, okay, the Covetor 2 is worth 807.6 million ISK. That's more than the Venture 4, it's a lot more than the Retriever, but if we look at what you get for that, you're literally getting, compared to the Venture 4, which was 31.48, you are literally doubling yourself here, and then some, between the Tech 10 Venture 4 and the Tech 10 Covetor 2. In fact, looking at the Venture 4 compared to the Retriever, despite being significantly cheaper than the Venture 4, has a significantly faster harvest time, 31.48 compared to 46.64. That gives the Retriever literally 1.5 times, well, literally 50% additional to the Venture 4. That's an insane amount of increase. And you might be saying to yourself, well, yes, okay, Benzie, but we're looking at going from a frigate up to a cruiser. But do you not see how the Retriever literally makes the Venture 3 completely obsolete? And even by time you hit the Venture 4, it's completely obsolete. Like, why would you use a Venture 4 over a Retriever? Other than possibly going into nihilist compressed space, which, if I'm being completely frank, I speak to a lot of miners, and a small percentage of them do that, because what's the point? Why would you go to a nihilist compressed space that requires you a long journey out there, possible risk of being destroyed, when you can just jump into your Covetor 2 and harvest 81.62 cubic meters per second? And of course, the Covetor 2 has that absolutely humongous ore hold as well, considerably bigger than the Venture 4's 30,000 cubic meters, which is still sizable, don't get me wrong. So what is the issue that I'm describing here? Well, other than the fact that, again, as we go up the tech levels, we are instantly making previous ships completely obsolete. The Venture 3 is made completely obsolete by the Venture 4, it's made completely obsolete by the Retriever. The Retriever actually makes the Venture 4 obsolete, even though the Retriever is Tech 7 and the Venture 4 is Tech 10. Then once we hit the Covetor 2, well, the Covetor 1, the Procurer, and the Retriever are all completely obsolete, and later this month when the Orca lands, the Orca makes the Covetor obsolete, because you're going to be flying an Orca rather than a Covetor 2, aren't you? Because you just want those bigger ores. Why would you buy a Covetor 2 when you could just go straight to the Orca? At which point, what's the point on having the Covetor line of hulls? Do you see where I'm going with this? The tech system has, by its virtue of existing, made every ship other than the Covetor 2 utterly pointless by time you hit the Covetor 2, and the fact that the Orca is going to be tech level 10 as well means that the Covetor 2 is going to be made obsolete by its addition. We're going to see a situation when this update lands that essentially ore prices will absolutely spike for probably a week or two whilst people build Orcas and Rorquals. And once those Rorquals and Orcas are suddenly out and flying and mining, they're going to be harvesting so much ore that once again the ore price is going to crash to lower than it currently is. But the simple fact here remains, the problem with mining, we have discussed this time and time again, comes from the fact that miners, if you are a shipbuilder who also happens to mine, there is no way you can afford your own ISK costs just for turning the oven on. Because you can sit there and harvest all the ores that you need to build a ship, but you're still going to be massively unavailable for the ISK. You're going to be completely outpriced by how much ISK is required to turn the oven on. And can you sell your ore at market? Not really. Any spare ore that you happen to have is pretty much useless, which means that most miners and industrialists will have a battleship or two that they go out ratting in, and they use that to generate the ISK required to turn the oven on. Industrialists have to become combat pilots in order to do the industrialist job. And again, some people might say, well, okay, Benzie, but what's the problem with that? Well, now imagine that you, as a ratter, if you wanted to upgrade your next ship, you actually had to go mining on your own for a material that you can't buy off the market. It would suck, wouldn't it? What's the point on being a combat career if you have to go mining? What's the point in mining as a career if you have to do combat anyway? It makes no sense. And this all comes down to the simple thing of supply and demand. Right now we have an overabundance of ore, very high supply, and because the blueprints themselves don't actually use all that much of it in regards to ISK, we have very low demand for that ore, which means we have absolutely rock bottom prices. When the industrial update comes and we get the Orca and that added, yes, okay, the demand for ore is suddenly going to spike, at which point the value of that ore will increase. But the second that those Orcas and Rorquals are built and suddenly out mining themselves, because of the fact that they're going to be even more lucrative at mining, more mining amount per second than the Covetor 2, you're going to crash those ore prices all the way back down to lower than they were before. It is simple economics. I'm not talking something crazy or hypothetical here. This is easy to demonstrate in real-world environments. We've seen it happen in Echoes multiple times as well. It is just how this works. Ultimately, this leads me to two conclusions. Strip mining amounts are just way too high compared to their laser mining equivalents, and the Venture series is just flat out useless. Why would you fly this when you could even fly this? This is better than this, despite this being more expensive and 3 tech levels higher. So, let's talk about the first concept first of all, about reducing strip mining amounts. Again, here we have the Venture 4 can harvest 31.48 cubic meters per second. Why can the Retriever harvest 46.64? Strip miners should not harvest nearly the amount of ores they do, especially considering it is less intensive of the player in order to do so. The Retriever can just park in a belt, strip mine without having to lock onto anything, and get more ore than a Tech 10 ship that costs literally 5 times as much and requires more effort to fly. This requires more effort to fly, costs more, and it just doesn't do as much. So the strip mining amounts are way too high. Like, why do you jump from 18.94 up to 46.64? That is a humongous jump. That is an incredible jump that is way beyond what we need. Having the Venture 4 be better than a Retriever makes sense. If you're going to have this crappy tech level system, it makes sense that the Retriever is going to be worse than the Venture 4. I'm not saying it needs to be much worse, I'm just saying, why do you jump from less than 20 cubic meters per second to more than 45 cubic meters per second? Why is the Retriever not something like 20 cubic meters per second? 22 at most, maybe, not freaking 46. That's just an insane amount. And by reducing strip mining amounts across the board, I was speaking to one particular industrialist, Bubo, who suggested possibly as much as minus 130 cubic meters per second, cubic meters off the mining amounts easy per strip miner would really help reduce things. I think we could probably go further. I genuinely think that the Venture 3 to Retriever jump shouldn't be as massive as it actually is. Yes, I do think that the Covetor 2 should get more than the Venture 4. That makes sense. It's a bigger, slower vessel, but having it so much better just completely obsoletes and negates the entire purpose of having these direct mining ships. So first of all, reduce strip mining amount across the board. This is going to produce fewer ore, thus reducing the supply, with the demand obviously remaining stagnant depending on what it is. That is going to just naturally increase the cost of ores anyway. As a miner, if you're strip mining, then all of the stuff that you get for yourself is going to be useful for you. But because the supply is dropped, all of the additional materials that you get via strip mining are going to be worth more, which means if you sell them at market, you're going to have more ISK to be able to turn on the oven costs. It's counterintuitive, I get it, but reducing strip mining actually helps industrialists of all levels. It also is a massive help to those at the lower tech levels, because rather than having 81.62 cubic meters on a Covetor 2 compared to a poor old Venture 3 pilot sitting there at 18.94 cubic meters, what you're looking at is something that is much closer together, and mining, being a market-based activity, is inherently PvP. I don't mean combat, it's player versus player marketeering. The fact that this guy can earn so much more ore than this guy means he is just far more competitive. This guy just cannot compete on the market. By reducing strip mining, you close that gap a bit more, which helps this guy out a lot more. The guy in the Venture 3 is going to be having a lot more fun and actually able to compete on the market to a certain degree. He's not going to be as good, of course he's not, but he's not going to be so far off that it's worthless to even bother trying. That's the first concept. Now, the second concept I want to run by you all is the concept of what is called overburden. Now, if you are at all interested in real-life mining, you probably already know what the term overburden actually means, but for those of you who aren't, overburden is the technical term for waste rock. Like if you're pulling tin or gold or anything out of the ground in a mine or whatever, even coal, you don't just pull that out of the ground, you pull out a lot of other rock that needs to either be broken off or like broken down with acid. I can't think of the bloody word. I did study chemistry once upon a time, honest. You have to remove the overburden. When you are pulling ore out of the ground, it is inside other minerals that are ultimately useless. That rock is waste rock, and you do need to remove that. And we know the same thing happens in real life if we want to talk about asteroid mining. There are companies that have looked at going into the asteroid belt in our solar system and basically harvesting that, and we still know that overburden is going to be a thing there. So, the concept here is that when you are mining, ultimately, you generate overburden as well, waste rock. And the more you mine, the more waste rock you're going to generate, of course. The concept here is that the developers themselves have said they want mining to be a little less AFK. I mean, you can still go AFK mining. I think being able to mine AFK is important. I want to stress that straight out the gate here. I think if you want to be able to mine AFK, then yes, we should keep that in the game. I just think that if you want to be an active miner, you should be earning more than someone who is AFKing. The same with ratting. If you want to go into a high-sec island and AFK rat anomalies, you're not going to earn as much as if you were in a null-sec system, actually actively engaging with things like Inquisitors, Scouts, and Dead Spaces. So why should it not be the same for mining? Ultimately, so overburden is the first one of these, and by having it so that strip miners generate more overburden than the targeted miners, this would give you a reason to actually fly something like a Venture 3 or a Venture 4. That's the first concept here, that you could use this overburden as a way of incentivizing non-AFK play, because you're going to need to jettison the overburden from time to time, otherwise your ore hold is going to be filled up with a useless rock. But occasionally you're going to have to do that to keep your eyes on things. If you just want to sit there AFK until your hold is full and you get the alarm that they're adding, then you turn around and dock up, you're going to be wasting a lot of your ore hold on this overburden rock, which you're just going to destroy once you get back to station. That's the concept here. That incentivizes active mining whilst not overly punishing AFK mining. It just means that AFKers are going to be going backward and forward that little bit more rather than, actually filling the hold. Heck, once you fill up the hold, you then have to come back to the game and then just jettison your overburden and then activate your miners again. That's the other way that this would help incentivize active mining. The second and third options both kind of tie together, and that's having a weapon upgrade module style low slot available for miners, kind of like a ballistic control system or a gyro stabilizer or a heatsink, a module that will increase the mining amount when you activate it. Again, this means that if you're an AFK miner, you're not going to be getting that bonus, whereas if you're an active miner, you're going to be mining more with it, which incentivizes active mining rather than AFK mining. The second part of that as well is to have things things like mining ammunition, which in EVE Online is the thing. You have mining focusing crystals, crystals for your lasers that help strengthen them, and when those break, you have to replace them. And if they break while you're AFK, then you're not mining until you come back and fix them. And that's another way that you could do this. Ultimately, those changes, whether we add things like overburden, mining lasers, mining upgrade modules in the low slots, and reduce strip mining, which I have to say is the biggest one here. Reducing strip mining is vital, in my opinion. It is just way in excess of what you can get with a targeted miner. Yet the targeted miner is much more effort, and the ships have smaller holds, and there's just no reason to run them. Now that brings me to the other thing that I want to talk about, which is how we can directly fix the Venture series. Now, to showcase this suggestion, I need to jump into EVE Online and show you the ore ship tech tree here. Now, ultimately, this starts, of course, with the Venture, and the Venture is as we would recognize it. This is the ship that you are given early on in your mining career. In fact, you are given one as part of the starting tutorials. It is exactly what we'd expect. Okay, yeah, we've got things like gas cloud harvesting, which we don't see in EVE Echoes, but for the most part, you're looking at things as just basic bonuses to mining yields, bonuses to mining yield, the additional warp strength there, which makes them harder to pin down, 50% reduction in the sinusoidal field generator, liquid ozone consumption, we can ignore that as well. The basic point is here, the Venture uses just straight up mining. It is a mining vessel. And once we go up further to the mining barges like the Procurer, the Coveter, and the Retriever, and there's stuff we can talk about here, the fact that these three ships are completely different. They all have very similar sort of mining yields. The Retriever is still absolutely viable at endgame. If you want to be a miner and you spend your life in a Retriever, you can do. The Procurer tends to be a bit faster to move around, whereas the Retriever has the bigger ore hold. Then the Coveter itself, as well as the big, hard, tanky one that takes a bit more time to beat through, so you have reasons to fly all of these different ships. But we're here to talk about the Ventures. Now, of course, the Venture itself is just the starting ship, and when we saw the Venture 2 and Venture 3, I was kind of expecting these to be a bit more like what we have up here, the Prospect and the Endurance. Now these, you can actually even see there, the Endurance, that is the skin that we recognize in EVE Echoes as the Venture 2. And indeed, if I go across to the Prospect, minus that there, the Prospect is the ship skin that we expect for the Venture 3, basically the same thing there. We don't have the red one, the Venture 4, here in EVE Online. But what these two ships do that the Venture does not, let's have a look. So the Endurance, 5% reduction in ice harvesting, we can ignore, 5% bonus to ore mining yield, that's the same bonus there, 5% bonus to mining yield. 5% reduction to ice harvesting, we can ignore, 4% bonus to all shield resistances, so it's a bit more tanky, 300% bonus to ore mining yield compared to the 100% bonus to mining yield there, so it's much bigger on that. We get the reduction in ice harvesting, which we can ignore, and then here it is. 50% reduction in cloaking device CPU requirement. Cloak reactivation delay and targeting delay reduced to 5 seconds, no penalty to ship maximum velocity when using cloaking devices. These are not covert ops cloaks, these are standard cloaks that you're using here on the Endurance, and it means that if someone jumps into your system, you can just cloak up quickly, and the second they're gone, you can decloak and lock instantly back onto what you were doing. And if they do decide that they're going to start trying to move around the belt and see if they can see you, the fact that you are not slowed down whilst cloaked really helps with the survivability. But what about the Prospect? Well, the Prospect, again, 5% bonus to mining yield, same as we saw on the Venture. Further down, 5% bonus to mining yield, same as we saw on the basic Venture there. And then we have a 100% bonus to mining and gas cloud harvesting, which is more than we saw before. So actually, you're getting, the Expedition Frigate bonus is giving you an additional 25% bonus to mining overall. The Prospect, we've got the Mining Frigate bonus to mining yield, which is the same as the Venture, and the roll bonus is the same as well, but you've got that additional Expedition 25%. The important part here, though, is reduction in cloaking devices CPU requirement can fit covert ops cloaking device and covert sinusoidal field generators. Finally, cloak reactivation delay reduced to 5 seconds. The Prospect is literally a Venture covert ops. Now, I can kind of forgive the fact that the Venture 2 and the Venture 3 don't have any bonuses to cloaking. I was surprised when they didn't when the game first launched, but it was one of those things. It's like, okay, well, mining's pretty safe in the game anyway. Do we really need covert ops cloaks? But now that we have the Nihilus compressed space, wouldn't it be good if, actually, the Venture 4 had the ability to use covert ops cloaks? Wouldn't it be good if the Venture 4 could use sinusoidal field generators to help bring that Rorqual in? Remember, Rorquals do have jump drives, but right now you need a covert ops cruiser to actually bring that in. So you need a covert ops cruiser in the middle of your mining operation. I mean, I guess it's kind of a scout, but why not give the Venture 4 that capability? Why does the Venture 4 not have covert ops cloaks and a sinusoidal field generator? That should absolutely be what the Venture 4 does, like the Prospect. And now that we have the Nihilus compressed space, to me that just makes sense. That this is, you jump into a Venture 4 with its covert ops cloak, maybe even scanning bonuses, but wide resonance scanning bonuses that allow you to explore space in your Venture 4. When you find compressed space, you can jump in with your cloak on, scout it out, and then mine it and bring it back safely whilst cloaked. You can also use it as a way of going, oh, there's a cool belt in this system. Yeah, let's jump out there, light the Sino beacon, and let the Rorqual jump straight to me, where we can then start up a mining fleet. I think that is what the Venture series really needs right now, something to differentiate it from the mining barges, because right now the Retriever is just flat out better than the Venture 4. Okay, yes, you can argue that the Venture 4 is faster and a bit more nimble and stuff, but does that really matter all that much when you are mining in pretty much completely safe situations? Make the Venture 4 about going exploring. Exploratory mining is what I'm getting at here. That is what the Venture series should be about, and I do also believe that the Venture 3 should have those same capabilities. The Venture 3 should have covert ops cloaking capabilities and sinusoidal field generator capabilities. Then the Venture 4 just becomes a better version of the Venture 3. Again, look, I don't like the tech system as it is in Eve Echoes, but if we're going to use it, at least, actually use it and give us a reason to fly these ships rather than just obsoleting everything as we climb to ever-dizzying heights of ore yield. To me, that would be a great change to the Venture series, and if you combine that with a reduction to strip miner yields, and you'll notice I do encourage a reduction to strip miner yields, not an increase to focused mining yields, because the last thing we need right now is just increasing all of our yields across the board. That is not going to fix anything as much as you may want it to. By mixing all of these fixes together, I think if you gave the Venture covert ops and sinusoidal fields, and if you gave the strip miners a reduction to their mining amount, those are probably two of the biggest things you could do for mining right now to really help them out. Once we've done that, then maybe we could look at things like overburden and mining upgrade modules and things like that as well, to help incentivize more active mining rather than AFK mining. Anyway, folks, that does bring me to the end of this particular video. I know it's been a little bit rambly. If you've been watching, then hopefully you've enjoyed the nice flashy graphics of super high definition versions of the Venture. Hopefully, if you've just been listening to it as a podcast, you've had some cool ideas, maybe got some thoughts and opinions of your own that you would like to add into the comment section down below. And believe me, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear from miners actually what you think the game needs, just as long as that answer isn't more ore. Because I'm sorry, I know some people sit there and call me out on this and go, oh, you ask for our opinions, but then you don't listen. Because not everyone's opinion is equal. I know the internet has taught us that everyone's opinion is equal. That is simply not true. In a simple case, as an example here, if you go to a doctor's medical opinion is going to be a better judge of what disease you may happen to have than just some random Karen that you're speaking to on Facebook. Anyway, sorry, that's getting a bit political. A simple point I'm getting at here is that not every opinion is equal, and the simple fact is fact. Economic fact, not opinion, is that adding more ore is not going to help miners right now. It is going to make the situation worse. We need to reduce strip mining. That is without contention. I'm sorry, that is without contention. And we need to reduce strip mining amounts, but I would love to hear what you think about like the Venture series, about things like the overburden mechanic as I've suggested it. Do you even see this as a problem? I would love to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening to me ramble on this one. Again, a humongous shout out to all of the industrialists that I'm speaking to, folks like Bubo, Yatsuki, and the other industrialists and miners, Arsden Krieg and all of the others as well, especially in Void. I obviously spend a lot more time talking to them than others outside, but I am still in contact with a lot of other industrial corps as well. Anyway, thank you for listening, folks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!